This non-championship consolation race features the 20 fastest cars that didn't qualify for the Round of Decatur, plus 5 wildcards, and the 2 drivers swapped out of the field. Zach Webster and Tony Durbin are on the front row. They are both favorites to win this race. Anthony Griffith and Gordon Newell from the Northwest. This is going to be his first start in car 888, the H.L. Bauer car. Carter Fitzgerald and Todd Stader in a gorgeous 025 car for the Jackaloni Motorsports team. Dan Morton, the Dash Cup regular, and Axel Andersson, the Michelin Sons car, trying to make some headway in number 74. Dan Richards is one of the drivers swapped out of the field, and Roman Carpont in car 45. We'll get to Richards in a little bit. Lewis Kingston and Kellen Rogers make up row 6. Rogers won the Karyala consolation race in the number 90 car. Craig Pierce in the 007 car, and Frank Azure, this is going to be the only special event he misses this year. Tom Moore in car 24, and Craig Mumbert is in this race, the first of the 3 MT Motorsports cars. Daniel Lecklider and Ryan Griffin, a little surprised they missed the field, and a little surprised they weren't higher up on the grid. Brian Morris in the 214 car, and John Dilks in the 29 car. Dilks the fastest wild card. E.B. Mara swapped out of the race under his own accord. Reese Bien in the 03 car, another wild card entry. Lane Cranston in the 314 car, and Gareth Hunt in the 48 car, both wild cards, along with Eric Jackson in the 917 car, well off the pace as was unfortunately expected of him. The 32 car of Zach Webster, the third driver for Power Sig Incorporated, gets a great launch into turn 1. The Snake, Tony Durbin giving him plenty of room. Anthony Griffith makes a charge. Webster a little bit wide, using all of the racetrack he needs. Todd Stader in the 025 car coming through the Snake. You have a little bit of a jam up there. Griffith in the 07 car squeezes over into Fitzgerald, into Stader. Stader headed for the wall. Great save from Todd Stader in that 025 car. Lane Cranston in the 314 car making a move on E.B. Mara towards the back of the field. And got contact there between, looks like Brian Morris in E.B. Mara, sends his teammate Lane Cranston off the track. Lane Cranston, the Team Lights regular. Roman Carpont in the 45 car actually peeled off and started from the pit lane. So not really a good start for the Tony Long team. Gordon Newell races mostly out of the Northwest. He's been one of the surprise tickets, actually. He qualified really well. Nearly put this car into the Round of Decatur, but here he is trying to make a run on Tony Durbin in the 56 car, the 2007 TM Master Cup Series Drivers Champion, who he and Webster are the favorites to win this race. Durbin, good move there on Webster, and everyone giving each other plenty of room there. But Gordon Newell's hanging up with, and he's able to keep with these guys. Now E.B. Mara in the 75 car is in a bit of an interesting position. He swapped himself out of the race. He qualified for the Round of Decatur, but since he is the driver and the sponsor, he opted to have Chris Davenport drive in his place. And off the course he goes! And into the wall. That might be why. But E.B. Mara, despite that, the very popular Cincinnati driver, it is kind of an interesting decision because he is the driver and the sponsor. So it is a bit of a different situation as opposed to Dan Richards, whose ride was bought out by Cats of Engineering. Now here is Dan Morton, the Dash Cup regular. We're very interested to see what he can do. So far, so good. Craig Mumbert in this red 114 car. All 3 of the Middle Tennessee cars were in this race. 2 on qualifying time, and Lane Cranston on a wild card. But Mumbert in this 114 car, one of the better road racers that doesn't have a full-time drive, honestly. The modified star continuing to show his skills here, running in 9th. Gareth Hunt in the back, contact the 917 of Eric Jackson and Todd Stader. The Irish Rally drivers had a bit of a rough introduction to the TM Master Cup Series so far, and looks like just a continuation of that. Eric Jackson, that blue 917 car, keeping up with a lot better, more than he did in qualifying, so I guess his race pace must be pretty good. Now, here's a driver we're really watching. Kellen Rogers has already marched her way up to 4th in the Olivia Grace car, one of the Matthews Motorsports entries. She won the Karyala consolation race quite easily, and it's not hard to suggest that she would be a favorite to win this one as well. Here's, again, Gordon Newell, really the surprise ticket so far. Is that he's keeping up with a much more well-funded car in Zach Webster, and Gordon Newell's making a move on him. Gordon Newell to second place in the Bauer car as Webster really getting aggressive, trying to take that place back. Newell using a little bit of the grass. I don't think he's ever raced out of anywhere but the Pacific Northwest, so Gordon Newell might be one of the unknown talents that no one's really ever heard of. And now Webster falls to the 90 car of Rogers. Rogers throws the block, asserts that she has the position over Webster, although, as we saw in the TM Lights race just a little while ago, that's not exactly the best place to throw a block, as Webster is now on the move, trying to get that place back. And the 32 car trying to... No, he's not. No, the Matthews Motorsports car has more straight line speed than the Lycoya, but also the draft from Newell probably helps. Oh, good move there by Webster to capitalize on a mistake. This is great stuff early on. For third place, Tony Durbin not pulling away from these guys at all, but Webster crowding as much as he can. Brian Griffin, 57 car. We got a jam up over here. Oh, Lecklater gets in the back of the 57 car. Something tells me there was something on the opening lap that we missed. Griffin around as Webster continues his battle with Rogers. They're still side by side. Newell throws some sand in their face. As there we go, Webster finally asserts. Oh, Newell a little bit wide. Webster trying to get a run on the Pacific Northwest driver. As there he goes, it looks like he's finally going to be able to assert this pass around the outside, but Newell slides up, trying to run him wide, and it looks like that's going to be a successful defense by Gordon Newell. Webster very, very flustered, but I think there's a little bit of an experience gap here between these two, because this, of course, this is Webster's, he's run in the TM Master Cup Series before a couple of times, but this is Newell's first recorded, his recorded attempt even in a non-championship event like this. So, really, you'd expect Webster to have a much easier time getting around Newell, but we've seen some of these guys show up only once that are just megastars that no one knows about. Perhaps we've found another one. Newell is still keeping this up in the 888 car. Tony Durbin must be loving what he's seeing in the mirrors, but he also must not be loving that he's not really getting away from him. Oh, Newell is wide! And he keeps control of it. Kingston, Griffith, and Morton all go by. That's disappointing, but Newell is still hanging on to this battle, though. Here is the 9th place car of Carter Fitzgerald, another one of the Matthews Motorsports drivers. Now, Ryan Matthews himself might have burst into the scene a little bit late in his career, but he's certainly done a lot as far as driver development, and Carter Fitzgerald looks like is another case like that. Here's Lewis Kingston, the 17 car. We believe this is going to be his last race at Manacor Engineering. It's not really been the most productive partnership, but Kingston's still one of the bigger crowd draws in the series in this car number 17. And you want how many really good opportunities he's still going to have left, as Dan Morton's trying to make mincemeat of him. Manacor Engineering surprisingly did not swap Yuho Kivala out of the race, but it was a very easy pass by Dan Morton. The Manacor Engineering car is not really good on this type of course. On the slower circuits on the calendar, though, they actually have done very well. Kellen Rogers now having another run at Webster, what's for now second place, and Rogers makes the move very cleanly. We had a big accident up in the S's, climbing up the hill rather. As John Dilks in the 29 car leaves the pit lane. That is a scheduled pit stop, and he's the first car to make a move for the pits. Now, we've had a big accident with Rob Jones several years ago going up the hill, and I think that's why some people are very cautious with their passes. As Rogers is taking Tony Durbin to the cleaners, it looks like, around the outside before he even gets to the garbage dump, which is this corner right. This section of corners right here. As very good move by Rogers. That Matthews Motorsports car is flying right now. The Aspira's done very, very well, despite not a whole lot of testing here. That is probably the best independently constructed car. Tony Durbin, by the way, is driving a car that was mostly built for super speedway racing, and it is a little bit of a surprise that it's running as well as it is here. Oh, big slide from Durbin. Of course, Tony Durbin, no relation to the development driver Ike Durbin, who is more than likely going to wind him in the TM Master Cup Series full-time within the next year or two. This Tony Durbin here is from Texas. Ike Durbin, not from Texas. Webster hanging on to the back of him, and Dan Morton has worked his way up into 4th place and is closing in fast in the 190 car. This is going to get interesting. And right behind Morton in 5th is Anthony Griffith. We got the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. You could throw a blanket over all of them. Who needs super speedway racing when you got this? Tony Durbin making a look. Webster making a look in the 32. Oh, Webster gets into Tony Durbin, and off goes the 56. Tony Durbin, a little bit of a nudge or two from Webster. I think there was 2 hits on the back of the 56, and off he goes. Helicopter camera. As we have Webster in the 32. Peeks to the inside, gets into him once, and oh, yeah, Webster cleaned him out. I don't think there's any room for really debate on that one. Webster kind of laid into the back of Tony Durbin, but Eric's racing for position. Eric Jackson, the 917 car, or being told has been given a warning by the officials to pick up the pace, and then he does that. Dalton Johnson Motorsports got wildcarded into this race. Those were randomly drawn wildcards among everyone on the entry list. Morton, 190 car, now running in 3rd. There is Griffith right behind him. Now, oh, Morton, fastest lap of the race in car 190. Not bad for a one-off entry that was thrown together kind of at the last minute using a car that was purchased from, I do believe that was an old Schoberg car. And Dan Morton's a hell of a wheelman, so no wonder he's doing as well as he is. Frank Azure there running in 7th. Kellen Rogers in the 90 car hits the pit lane. In the Olivia Grace car, and you may have noticed, not too many takers. A lot of people looks like they're staying out. This is going to get interesting. Pit lane is, of course, a little bit longer than it has been in previous years because the Round of Decatur this year is starting 46 cars. Tony Durbin into the pits on lap 10. That is one lap. Whoa, Lecklighter and Tom Moore. This is one of the better battles on the track right now. And the Tom Moore in this 24 car been pretty competitive all weekend. Not surprising that he would wound up either in this race or in the Round of Decatur proper, but he has done fairly well so far. Worked his way up to 10th. Solid season despite bouncing around from Delgado de Garmo to Team SAR USA. Neither team has really had their act together all year. Oh! He got into the back of Mummert. Got into the back of Mummert and took them both into the wall. And, well, if that's not a case of commentator's curse, I don't quite know what is, because Mummert, I don't think, saw that one coming. And that is why you see a lot of people giving each other room going up the hill. Gordon Newell is caught up to Anthony Griffith and Dan Morton. And we have those cars, now they're all pitting a little bit later, about 1 or 2 laps later than Kellen Rogers, who we're on board with right now. We're going to see if Rogers is able to beat them all out of the pit lane and take the lead back here. Looking a little bit ahead, a little hard to see anybody. I see that's Griffith leaving the pits on the right. There's 2 cars at front. That looks like that's Webster and Morton. So, Kellen Rogers back to 3rd. She's going to have to put the bit between her teeth and really push hard to catch them. Webster gotten a big break here with that brilliant pit of pit strategy from Power Sync Incorporated, and Dan Morton followed suit in that 190 car. Azure having a look on Newell now in the 46 car. See the running order on the left. Azure makes a move. Kingston is right there. In the 17, Azure's wide. He goes in a little bit too deep. Good defense by Newell. And Kingston now having a run on Newell, and it looks like Kingston's going to get him. Newell trying to get something back around the outside. Oh, he's into the grass. That's going to cost him some momentum as Anderson is closing in. And Frank Azure waits in the wings. And Dan Richards back there as well in the 440 car. Richards qualified for the Round of Decatur, but his ride was bought out by Cats of Engineering, as I mentioned already. Anderson, a little bit of bumper tag there with Newell. Doesn't spin him out like Webster did to Tony Durbin earlier. Whoa! Bit of a slide there on the 74, but as you see here, Newell has held on to the place very well here. Oh, going into the snake here. Azure, more bumper tag with Newell, and Azure cleans him out. Azure turns Gordon Newell. No patience there from Frank Azure. Just turns around Gordon Newell. Big disappointment for Newell. That's going to earn Azure the ire of the stewards. as you see right there. Lewis Kingston now beginning to charge on Carter Fitzgerald. Kingston has now reset fast lap of the race in the Manticore car, which is the old Nemoto from last year. Still with a little bit of factory support, but Nemoto reportedly could be working on a triumphant factory return in a couple years' time. We'll see how that works out for him. Fitzgerald in the 062, Matthews Aspira defending from Kingston, making a good move here. Kingston the Nemoto is going to beat the Matthews Aspira in a drag race into turn 1. How about this? Right into the snake. Kingston has the place, and he goes wide, and Fitzgerald gets the crossover on him. Great stuff there by Carter Fitzgerald. Lechleiter, 47 car, and Anderson, the 74 car, jammed up behind Dan Richards, and they make contact, and around goes Lechleiter. Lechleiter is one of the better journeyman drivers, and I think he may not have realized there was a car to his right there. Anyways, here is Morton with he doesn't have a lot of time left to close in on Zach Webster. He's got to do it now, but Webster is holding pace. Just a couple corners to go for the 32 car of Zach Webster. Down the front straightaway, a little bit of extra draft from E.B. Mera, and Zach Webster will win the Consolation race for the Round of Decatur. Brilliant win for the Power Steering Incorporated driver, with Dan Morton a very good second place on his first ever Master Cup Series attempt. Rogers came home in third, just ahead of the thrilling battle for fourth place between Anthony Griffith, Carter Fitzgerald, and Lewis Kingston. Tony Durbin 7th, Anderson, Richards, and Brian Morris rounded out the top 10. Good recovery also by Gordon Newell to finish in 11th place. This race is proof positive that the talent level in the TM Master Cup Series is at an all-time high. Because remember, none of these drivers are going to be in the Round of Decatur, but also, it alerted many team owners, sponsors, and fans that there is plenty of new talent out there just waiting for a shot. The focus now turns to the 46 drivers and cars that have qualified for the Round of Decatur.